Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to the second video tutorial here. In this video tutorial, what we're going to be doing is creating the textures for our bullet. Okay, so before we can even create the textures, we have to unwrap our model here. I assume that you have basic unwrapping knowledge in this video tutorial. So I'm just going to go over marking seams and separating this bullet out the way we want. And we're going to hand paint our texture because we're going to fake most of it with the shaders. So we're not going to have to really worry about too much what the texture is. The texture is just going to give us the color of our object. Okay, so the first thing we have to do is go hit tab, go into UV editing, and we're going to mark a seam right here. We're going to mark a seam right here, and then we're going to hold Shift, Alt, and we're going to mark a seam on the adjacent side as well. If you don't know what that does, I'll show you really quickly. If we unwrap, it's going to separate this into two halves. Alright, so basically all it does is it takes the object and it separates it from that seam. Alright, so now we want to separate the bullet, and we want to get the interior of the bullet only. We don't want the exterior. So, the interior part of the casing, not the exterior part. So there's two parts, two rings here that we can select from. We want to select the inner ring and mark the seam. You can now separate the bullet out from the casing. It won't actually separate the object, it'll just separate the UV. Alright, the next part here, we're going to hit vertex, and we're going to select, holding control down, we're going to right click to here, and we're going to clear the seams. And then we're going to select the outer ring, and we're going to mark a seam. And what that's going to allow us to do is it's going to allow us to take the primer here and completely separate it from the rest of the casing, kind of like what we did with the bullet, but only it's going to be more circular than in halves. So when I unwrap, as you can see, we have our casing here, and then we also have our primer, casings, and bullets. Alright, so we're going to weld these together. So just W weld and do the same thing right here. Alright, and we're going to pack all these UVs. So, oops. So Control P, and that'll pack it for us. We're going to select these inner UVs here. And we're going to hit G and X, so that way we can move that out of the way. And we're going to do the same thing we basically did. We're just going to do it right here. Alright, GX. So that way everything's nice and separated. Alright, we're going to move all these more towards the middle, and we're going to scale them in just a tiny bit to make sure that we have enough room for everything else. Okay, sorry if it seems like I'm rushing through this, but I only have 15 minutes to do it, so I'm going to try to get this all done in 15 minutes. That includes lighting and everything too. Okay, so now we have our UVs all, selected and ready to go. So we're going to export this UV layout to bullet.png. Okay, from there we're going to go ahead and open up a new window here. Alright, and we're going to create a new layer. We're going to call it BG for background, and we're going to take this and fill it in with black. Now you notice that the BG layer is underneath the bullet.png layer. Alright, the next one's going to be colors, because this is what we're going to do to fill in our colors. The next step is to take your lasso tool, and now we're going to select around the edges, leaving some of the black space in there. Now the reason for that is to help create seamless textures, because let's be real, you don't want an ugly seam messing up your texture. Alright. And we'll keep it as true as we can to the form. Now you notice that I'm rushing through it kind of quickly, but you want to try to keep it as close as you can, but you just want to make sure that you have enough space in there so that way you don't have random white parts sticking out or gray parts here. Alright, so now we're going to fill this with a dark kind of gold color here. Maybe darken that up just a little bit. Okay. Control C, Control V. We'll copy and paste. And we're going to bring this right on over here. Alright. Zoom in just to make sure that nothing looks off. Okay, it looks like it's good. So now we have the two bullets got color to them. The next part, we're going to grab the Ellipse select tool, and now we're going to use this on the primer. And the primer is usually it's a chrome, or not chrome, more of a silvery kind of color. So we're just going to add in a light gray color, which we have one right here. So we got a light gray that we're going to add to it. The next thing we're going to do is the bullet casings. And we're going to use the lasso tool again, and we're going to do the same type of thing, but only we're not going to separate these two out. Mostly because they have a definite shape, and there's enough of them to know which side is which. And being as it is a bullet, really there's not that much detail that goes into it. You can make it shiny, you can make it dirty, whatever you'd like to do. In our case, we're just going to make a shiny bullet because, like I said, I only got 10 more minutes here to make this video before my timer runs out for the video. So I didn't want to put this into two separate parts. So sorry about rushing through this, guys. You can pause it anytime you want. Okay, here we go. There, okay. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take the same color that we took for the bullet, so this color, and we're going to lighten it up. So we'll just bring it up there, fill it in. So this should be lighter than this. As you can see, the primer, all of this should be pretty much good to go. Hit Control E, this will export it. We're going to export it as bullet.png. Okay. And we're also going to save this as bullet.png or XCF. The reason I do that is so that way if I do need to come back and edit for some reason, or if I need to see the UVWs without having to export again, all these layers are already set up. I can just open the XCF. Okay, so the next thing we have to do, we only have 8 minutes here, so I'm going to try to rush through this part too, is we're going to create a plane for our background here. So go ahead and scale that out, 0 actually. That'll work. We're going to grab these two edges and we're just going to scale them up. And this will just give us kind of a background for our bullet to work with. So that way it looks a little bit nicer than without one. Alright, so now let's say if I put this into rendered mode, you're not going to see much. I don't think I even have a light in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a lamp, and we're going to add a sun lamp. We'll move this over here. And we'll go into compositing now. Alright, so we have our lamp here. We're going to bring down the strength to, we'll say 0.6. Now we're going to use this as actual sunlight, so we're going to bring this more into the yellow kind of range. And now when I render it out, you'll notice that it's a little bit yellow, but gets the job done. Alright, so we're also going to put a backlight back there, so that way we can see also the back of our model, so that way we don't just see the front. Alright, so let's go ahead and Shift A, and this one we'll use a point lamp for. Let's go ahead and go into material so I can see where it's at. Alright, and we're going to move it back this way, and we'll bring down, we'll just move it farther away from the object. There we go. And this is going to be a blue light. Alright, we'll bring down the strength a tiny bit here. Bring it down to 75. 75 should be good. Alright, so now you can see that we have a backlight that'll be reflecting off this, but we also have our sunlight as well. We're going to grab the bullet and we're going to pull it down just a tiny bit so that way it doesn't look like it's floating. Floating in the air. Alright, and now we're going to create a new material and we're going to apply our image texture. And if we leave it like this, all that's going to happen is our image texture is going to show up like this. It's going to be very cartoony. It's not going to look very realistic or shiny or anything like that. So now we have to start adding in shaders. Alright, so like I said, I'm sorry I'm going to rush through this a little bit. We're we're going to go ahead and use shader, mix shader. Alright, and we'll put this in here, and we'll throw that up there. Alright, so now you'll notice that we have this, our bullet texture still a part of this. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to mix another shader, and we're going to mix together our gloss shader. So let's look for glossy. Put that on the top, and then we're going to mix anisotropic. And we're going to put these on the bottom. And now when we add the shader like this, you notice that it's a lot more glossy, it's a lot glossier, a lot easier, more realistic even, like this. Alright, so let's say I give this a nice little render out here. Still doesn't look completely real, but you know, it's getting there. So what we're going to do is we're going to now add a Fresnel input. So put Fresnel. And we're going to add this to the factor. And we're going to bring the factor, or the factor of the Fresnel, up to 9. Alright, and what that does is it gives you a greater index of reflection or refraction. Actually, we'll bring this to 6. Greater index of refraction, but also kind of contains the color as well. Alright, now if we let's say we took this off, it looks like really dark and doesn't really have too much to do with it. Now when we add the glossy anisotropic, it looks a lot nicer. So now when I render it out, it's already got a better look to it. So yeah, now you can go in here and you can edit the roughness of the glossiness, or if you want it to be more glossy than anisotropic, you can mess with the factor here, and let's say we want more glossy. You can bring it back more if you want it more on the anisotropic side. You can bring it up. We're going to leave it right at about 4.8 or 0.482, and that'll give us a little extra gloss, but not so much to where it's incredibly pointless. Alright, so we'll go ahead and create another bullet here, and we'll rotate it out 90 degrees. On the x-axis, y-axis, and then we'll rotate it on the z-axis, so that way we can see the back of it. Alright, now we're also going to move, or just increase the sun shader a tiny bit here. We're going to increase the sun shader a tiny bit here in order, or sun lamp, in order to give us a little bit more of that regular light that we want. So we'll go here, and we'll actually probably keep it at 0.8. Alright, we'll render it out. Let's see what it looks like. Well, keep it in the viewport anyway. Alright. So, alright guys, that's it for this video tutorial. Sorry I rushed through this last part with you guys. I know I probably shouldn't have, but I have a couple things to do today. I wanted to make sure I got this video tutorial done for you guys. So you'll notice that we have shiny looking bullets. They're relatively realistic. They're not photorealistic, but they get the job done relatively well. I went over some of that, the lighting here. So you'll notice that a backlight actually adds a lot to it. Let's say I take out the backlight. Actually, the sunlight kind of drowns out the backlight, but you can still see it right here. If I were to take that out, it would lose a little bit of its luster, but not so much so that you would really even notice, I don't think, in this actual scene. But thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I know it was a little quick and dirty. My next video tutorial, not quite sure what it is. If you want to see a video tutorial, just post in the comments below. I'll get one out. If you guys want to do, game models, little poly models, animating, whatever it is, just let me know. And by the middle of this week, I'll have another tutorial idea at the very least. I hope to see you guys there.